I went down and visited the Stark Center. This is the largest museum for strength history, cultivated largely by Jan Todd. I am absolutely blown away by how much was in here. And excuse the choppy start, we just got so excited when we got in there and we weren't sure everything that we were going to see, but ultimately we got the camera rolling and got some pretty special stuff, including a very, very special highlight to me with the Seer Dumbbell, which you're gonna see in a minute. But this whole trip to the Stark Center made me realize that strength might be more important than just lifting weights. It might be more important in and of itself than just a sporting activity. When I see all of this history that I really don't know and I really didn't pay attention to before, admittedly, it makes me feel like I'm a blip on the radar and a small part of something that's gone on for thousands of years and something that improves people's lives in more ways than just feeling stronger. The day started off when we walked into the Stark Center, saw a giant statue, and met up with Dr. Jan Todd and Dr. Charles Stocking. Jan took off, but she comes back later, and Dr. Stocking started taking us around and showing us some of the early history of strength training.
He was basically personal trainer to all of royalty.
Okay.
As a strongman.
Yeah.
Right, and then that's how he met Eugene Sandow as well.
Right, okay.
Right? So,
okay.
but the fact that, like, in terms of the level of importance of strength back then, that he's like training the royal family.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
Jan and Terry are like obsessed with the Farnese because it was that sculpture in particular that sort of inspired the desire to be strong and like strong in competitions.
Okay, right. Wow, so that's why it's like front and center.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow. And so how is he linked into Sandow?
So he partnered up with Sandow and they were going on tour together.
Okay.
So he was the mentor. He like discovered Sandow.
Right.
Sandow came into his gym.
He then took us into a room filled with Arnold Schwarzenegger memorabilia and a lot of pictures that I've never seen before. Oh, yeah.
So that's Paul.
Oh, wow. I've never seen Paul that young.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Jan then came back, and we learned some of the most incredible things about her journey, her history, and the origination of the Stark Center.
This was a piece that I commissioned Ransford to make for Terry as a gift.
Right.
And I sent him a bunch of pictures of Louis Cyr.
Yeah.
And because he's a folk artist,
Yeah.
you know, he gets to then interpret that as he wishes.
Yeah.
So I sent him pictures of Louis Cyr with, his singlets on and all this kind of looking big, beefy, and manly.
Yeah.
And then we were living in Texas, and so he shipped it down to me for Terry's Christmas, because Terry and I commissioned art for each other as Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
It's not big art, but small art.
Sure.
Anyway, and so when it came, I was looking at it and I was unboxing it and I was thinking, oh, this is so different than I expected.
Sure.
But then I looked down and he had written a note and he said, I don't think you should call it Louis Cyr. He said, I call it light as a feather. So when I was training to lift the Denny stones and to go over and do that, I had to be stronger and I needed a bigger upper back than I had and more lat strength.
Sure.
Because my upper body basically, when I was a young girl, was like smaller upper body, big wide hips, strong legs.
As you do, yeah.
But the width and everything up there was small. So we started a routine where I was doing Jefferson lifts.
Okay.
Where you split, you stand over the bar, you're like straddling the bar and you lift it this
Yeah,
way.
of course.
And then also doing partial deadlifts from two positions, which were primarily to build lats and traps. So I will say that my traps were pretty amazing at that time.
Jen, that's like 4 inches off of the pins.
Yeah.
1,000 pounds, no straps, 198.
I was strong, Mitchell.
Yeah, you were really strong.
Yeah, and I think, like I could get under the side of my Ford Fiesta car and squat it up.
Right.
If I got a towel and put it across my shoulders where the driver's seat was, I could lift the side of my Fiesta, which I did in an exhibition.
That's so crazy. Because like right now, and I'm not going to put the question to you, but right now, the number of women who could deadlift 1,000 mixed grip with no straps is not north of 2, maybe, probably closer to 0 than 2.
I would say maybe Lucy, I'm not sure.
It's just a grip thing at that stage, but 1,000 is huge. If I did that right now, I could do it, but I would be uncomfortable for sure.
So I'll show you, I have a picture of me doing the 1230 with straps.
Okay.
And you can actually, it's on a PowerPoint, I'll show you, but you might like to see the picture. And because the bar is really bent, and on that one.
What do you think it is though? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense that you could do that then and now. It's not like people are eons ahead. Like on the men's side, I would say most lifts that you see from 30 years ago, we can do now fairly easily. Yeah. Do you think it's that you had the reference of Terry lifting such heavy weight and you sort of had it as like, that's your reference points?
Yeah, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked lifting the big weights.
Yeah.
I found it interesting.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of it.
Sure.
And I actually, after I got over the initial stuff in the early 70s when I was like, am I still gonna look like a woman? And I was like, I don't really care. I just want to be strong for a while and see what that feels like. Then it was just really interesting to be that strong. But the thing to remember too is if you look at my total numbers, right? Yeah. If you look at my lifts in that era, I'm not at all comparable to the women who were deadlifting this week.
Sure.
Like my best deadlift in competition ever was 484.
Okay.
But that was a big lift in those years.
Sure, of course.
But that was as a heavyweight. And then I dropped down and I lost 80 pounds. And then 18 months later, I lifted 479. Excuse me, I misspoke.
Right.
I lifted 479 and then 18 months later, weighing 146, because I used to go up and down a lot in the weight classes.
Yeah.
I lifted 5 pounds less. But the week before that, I did that at a contest in Columbus, Ohio. Kaz was with me. He and I both did world record totals that day, highest totals in men and women.
Wow.
Both on the same day at the same meet.
Wow.
But I had the women's nationals a week later. Mm-hmm. And so I took the 545. I had doubled 540 in the gym.
Wow.
Before the contest. And then went and did the Columbus meet, had my down week to go to the nationals, and I stuck a knife in my hand right here. You still see the scar, cut the tendon, and that ended the was hopefully going to be like a 570 or something.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, you explain strength as like getting strong and lifting weights is just interesting. Mm-hmm. I find it the exact same, but I understand so well when someone else says that it is completely uninteresting, because objectively it sort of is, but subjectively, why do you find it interesting?
Well, I think I find it interesting because I think we have always undervalued what women are capable of doing. Mm. And I say that in about my academic life as well as like my sport life. Mm-hmm. You got to remember, I graduated from high school in 1970. Mm. There were no teams for women in my high school.
Any sport? Wow.
So I swam on a club swim team my freshman and sophomore year of high school. Quit that because then I didn't want my hair to be wet when I went to school. So it's
sure. Yeah.
It's a girl thing. Right?
Yeah.
And then but then when I got to college, they had women's basketball and women's tennis. They had 2 teams for women there, mm-hmm. but I'd never played those sports. I wasn't able to do it and didn't really have any interest in doing it. I had other things I was focusing on at that point. And so then when I started lifting, 2 things happened. One was that the first time I competed in a contest was 1975, and I went to a meet in Chattanooga because they had referees there where I could, and all I was trying to do it was just for fun. I had just started deadlifting to see if I could break a record that had been listed in the Guinness Book since 1926.
Cool, right.
And it was a 392 deadlifts by some woman from France. And so I did not do I just did an exhibition afterwards with the referees there in sweatpants, and I deadlifted 394 and a half.
Right.
So I'm young, like 23, 24 at that time.
Yeah.
And anyway, but when I came home to Macon, Georgia, where Terry and I was married by then, the local newspaper came out to ask if they could do an interview with me. And so they did a story, and Macon had 2 newspapers every day at that point. Mm-hmm. So there was like the Macon News was the evening paper. And when the reporter did the article and it came out, and it was on the front page of the Macon News.
Wow.
Which was strange.
Yeah.
But it also made me begin to think, because I wasn't totally stupid of women's rights and the sort of fight for women's equality and what Title IX meant and all that, mm-hmm. that maybe there was some importance to this.
Yeah.
And truthfully, as time went on, And you know, I did pretty much. I mean, used to be a show in Canada called Peter Zosky's show.
Okay.
TV, like Johnny. It was like an evening, you know, one of those evening talk show things. And
Yeah.
So because we were living in Nova Scotia then, so I did Zosky's show several times.
Yeah.
I did, you know, pretty much all the American television shows. You know, To Tell the Truth, I've Got a Secret, The Morning Show,
Wow.
Today, all that. I did. I did the Johnny Carson show, which
Really?
oh yeah, you can
Wow.
you can still see it on YouTube.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can show it to you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I had a very long segment that actually worked well. I took 415 pounds, which was over my world record in the deadlift. My world record had moved up to 412 by then.
Yeah.
This was in about 79. And I did 3 reps with it over the world record on the show. And then he came over, and then some other guys came over, and of course they couldn't lift it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it worked really well.
That's awesome. The most unbelievable part of the entire Stark Center might not actually be what's on display. It might just be in the total volume of strength, magazines, memorabilia, and collectibles that are not only on display, but also in the back room. Right. And this is like a real OG dynamometer. Wow. We were lucky enough to get a little bit of footage of some pretty cool things behind the walls of the Stark Center. How often do we hear men say, I walk so many miles a day, I play golf so many times a week, how could I possibly need any further exercise? I've already explained in chapter 1 what exercise should really be if health is to be secured and retained. I've explained to meet modern requirements the whole number of movements necessary to perfect body culture than compression system compared with a few exercises. Wow, that's so cool.
here, you know, like,
It's like the same narrative today.
It
Yeah.
doesn't change, like,
Yeah.
this is for a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But then also really trying to get everybody healthy as well.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So not just doing performance, but trying to convince people of the importance of strength training for
Yeah.
health. You know,
Yeah,
and so
wow.
we've got all kinds of really great texts. And yeah, like you said, the narrative, it's in some ways it's changed a lot, and in a lot of ways it hasn't changed at all. We're still talking about the importance of muscle, like Michael's book, you still need to train.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like, I mean, the work you're doing, you know. And that
Yeah,
you've been doing
of
is just
course.
convincing
Of
everybody,
course.
you know.
Trying to anyway.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how to be a strong man, this is your article.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I want to read a little bit of that. That's funny. The various systems of training pursued by the exponents of interesting cult, of which Sandow is a product, have one end and aim: the lifting of heavy weights.
Yeah.
Is estimated the highest reward of labor and one indisputable test of manhood. Attila, the man who trained Sandow, is very explicit on this point. My system is of light dumbbells, he said to an Evening Sunday reporter, is intended to develop every muscle of the body, but once those muscles are developed, I teach my pupils to perform great feats.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Isn't that cool?
Wow. Wow.
So
Dr. Jan Todd was really generous this day and probably let me do some things that I shouldn't. And I'll just let the video do the talking. Oh, it's so close.
yeah, but you're doing so much better than anybody else I've seen do this.
Is that right?
Yeah, Mark can barely lift.
Oh, right. Okay. And my hands aren't that big. That's the problem. With some of these grip things, which, by the way, if there's ever something like this in a Arnold, I'm out. I'm not doing it. Because it's a contest of how long are your fingers. Like, pretty much.
I don't normally choose those kind of events.
Yes.
If I don't-
Oh, it's so close. Cup it like this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, apparently. That is insane. Like, literally just like that. That's crazy. Has anyone done this in here? Probably just as per not being allowed. That's cool. That's history. That's really cool. That's awesome. Wow. That was the experience at the Stark Center. The video probably could have been better, but I was just loving the experience and being in there. Hopefully you guys pulled a couple of things that were useful. Huge thank you to Jan Todd. She is one of the most humble people when it comes to strength sports. But a partial deadlift of 1,000 pounds, under 200 pound body weight for a woman, no straps, is absurd. And I have a new level of athletic respect for Jan to add to my professional respect that's been long-standing. Thank you very much to Michael for having me out for the book as well. If you guys want to get that book stronger, we also did a little speech at the video or the book release. That would be great. Go ahead and check that out in the description. But this all made me realize that maybe strength is about a little bit more than just lifting weights. It's been a part of society for an extremely long time, and it's meant a hell of a lot to a lot of people in ways that have stretched far beyond what I initially thought. As someone who's going to do my part to continue inching this sport forward, which is why I make videos like this to spread to people like you, it was nice to see that I am a very, very, very small cog in the wheel that will continue to turn for strength sports being a fantastic endeavor for a very long time to come. As always, lift heavy, be kind. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and drop a moose dropping if you have nothing else to say in the comment section to help out the algorithm and get this stuff out to more people who might also fall in love with it like we have. Until tomorrow, lift heavy, be kind, and I hope you enjoyed this video.